Welcome back to the show. We've got Jonathan Stanley with us today. And, Jonathan is a light. He brings wisdom and greatness to leadership. You're going to love this podcast today. His book, Purposeful Performance, a way that really helps leadership and the workplace culture, is something that all of us are looking for, right? That idea of that mix of what does all of that mean? And, is that just, words? What does it really mean to feel that idea? And Jonathan embodies that. He is a light. His pre-show work that we did together was just beautiful, and I'm excited about having him on the show. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
When we look at being a purposeful leader, right, there's a lot to that. And, people are always asking me, what does it mean to be a purposeful leader? Is that just gobbledygook? I mean, how do I embody that as a leader? And what does it mean to be a purposeful leader?
Number one, you've got to be genuine and authentic. You've got to live who you really are. You've got to sort of shed these sort of layers of who you think you should be and truly represent yourself as the person you truly are. And the second part of that is you've got to lead with genuine care. The challenge we face today is that so many organizations really don't step back and lead with genuine care. And the fact is, when you care for your employees, they will care for you.
I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and there are days when, for sure, I feel that, and the more and more successful I've been able to look at and be with employees and really be here to, support them. Maybe as an early entrepreneur, there was a part of me that got something out of being an entrepreneur. Like, see me, show me, let me show you who I am. I was trying to prove something to the world. Maybe as I started to break through that, right, the next part of my leadership got to come into place where you started to work on who I could be, right, and who I could be. But, look, as an entrepreneur, you're always faced with all these pressures that, make it really frustrating because you're making payroll and you got to make everybody happy and you got all this stuff going. Purposeful, I just need to make payroll. What do you mean purposeful? I'm trying to make sure I get payroll next week.
I completely agree. And let me tell you, there was a time in my career where I spent all my time chasing money. I thought my value, like you, was directly associated to how successful I was personally and how well the organization was doing. But the fact is that purpose-driven organizations that have social impact at their core are thriving. They're recording the highest record profits ever. And the reason for that is that they have a clearly defined purpose. They have values that align and represent who they really are. And they believe in doing good in the world. And the challenge organizations face is that they ignore the research, they ignore the success, they keep getting caught in the daily chaos of operations. And the only way you're going to achieve clarity, direction, and focus is having a clear understanding of why you exist and the aspirational change you want to make in the world. That becomes your North Star. That creates the focus that you need to drive forward to accomplish your goals.
Well, unwinding to figure that out, I think that's a tough one for young entrepreneurs. Hold on. I don't know about for them, but it was for me, right? I'm going to kind of use some I statements for me and where I was. It was really, trying to figure out what it is I want to be. First of all, who I want to be when I grow up. What kind of human being do I want to be?
Sure.
All of those characteristics took some time to unwind, because at first it wasn't, I just wanted to be rich. That's all I wanted to be, right? At first I wanted to be rich. And I thought that was a characteristic. I thought that was, if I'm rich, then people will like me, people will see me, people will know me, right? I just want to be rich. And all that, became some way of being that really maybe was even a little bit, maybe even a little violent to the people that worked for me.
Well, I think it's destructive both internally as it relates to yourself as well as externally. And I think, profit is really important, but it's a short-sighted way of operating your organization. And let's face it, I've been there, right? I've had those sleepless nights about how am I going to meet payroll? But, purpose for me was the driving force of bringing everyone together around a common cause. something they could believe in. And I've been on this purpose journey with several entrepreneurs. And here's the thing. You've got to become vulnerable. You've got to have the courage to go back to those points in your life where you've had conflict and pain, emotional pain. There's reasons why you started that business just beyond becoming wealthy, right? You've got to sort of peel back those layers and get to the heart of why you started that business. Some of the most successful outcomes I've had are with entrepreneurs who really face some emotional pain. And I'll give you an example. I had an entrepreneur that, working with the organization, peeling back the layers, finally confessed to me that the reason he started the organization is because he felt alone and excluded. He didn't belong. He didn't fit in. And so, the purpose for the organization became inclusion. And it was a powerful motivator for everyone inside the company because guess what? They could relate to him in a very emotional way. We all know what it feels like to not fit in.
That's right. That's right. To be seen, to be wanted, to be part of something special. I would venture to say that those early days of, money driven was ultimately because I didn't want you to know that I was poor. Right. I was trying to prove something. If I boiled it down to, maybe I could give you guys $10,000 worth of therapy was, that little boy on the playground that was seen as, had holes in his pants and his mother worked at Denny's, and I just didn't want to be poor anymore. I wanted to be like those rich kids. Right. In those early days of being an entrepreneur, I was trying to prove that, right? Trying to prove that I wasn't poor anymore. And if you went to dinner with me, I'd never let you buy dinner. Right. I always had to show you, hey, I'll buy everything here because I'm not poor. Right. And if you really, one of my business coaches kind of broke that down, like, really, that's kind of annoying, right? I mean, imagine people who want to give you dinner and it's kind of annoying that you keep picking up the tab and they actually want to be there. And, and then through a little bit of conversations and start to really unwind that, you start to understand some of those ways of being, some of those characteristics and some of those things you're trying to solve. And you can see maybe that was my early purpose, right? And you start to identify maybe that wasn't, and I'm not saying it wasn't fulfilling or it worked for some point, but then today, as that evolves, you start to notice that maybe, a different purpose comes to light. Right? Maybe I can create an organization where people can flourish, right? Maybe a place where their families can flourish, right? One of the things I love about the companies we create today are the longevity and security, right? How do we have people who work here for a long period of time, right? How do you create that? How do you create stability and security for the people that work in your organizations?
Yeah, for me, purpose became sort of at the forefront when I lost my brother to suicide. It really sort of reshifted my thinking into what's really important in life. This tragedy gave me a gift. He gave me a gift. He left me a message that said, you can be anyone you want to be, but live life authentically and genuinely. And I self-reflected on that. And, profits became secondary to giving people meaning in the workplace. And it had a transformational effect on my organization. To answer your question, we all seek that question, right? We all have that existential question. Why are we here? We've got to resolve that by doing something meaningful, to giving our employees a sense of purpose and meaning through the work they do, and recognizing and acknowledging that it's not your leadership that's driving the growth of the company, it's your people. So how can you fully support and recognize, acknowledge, and help people realize their full potential? That's really our role as a leader, is we have to shift our mindset from what we can gain, right, to what we can give. Mm. And that's a really powerful shift in mindset. It's not about gaining, it's about giving. And magical things happen. It's called reciprocity. Mm. When you truly have a heart of giving without expecting anything in return, great things happen.
That's a great spot to get to, right? My venture is that no one taught us how to do that, right? Especially when you're little kids, there was kind of a lot of me stuff, right? And then as you start to grow and watch the example of others, right? Great leaders that you get to watch that really are empathetic to their people. Great leaders, and throughout my life, I've been there as well, where you watched different leaders I've worked for have different characteristics, and you start to figure out which ones that you want to be as you continue on. What
Right.
were some of the leaders how did you get to this philosophy? What are some of the leaders that guided you and, through this?
Yeah, as I was, working in my career, I wasn't always an entrepreneur. I worked for large companies and small companies, but I had some great mentors. And one of the things I learned early on is that the way I could be successful is by surrounding myself with people who could help me become more successful, people who believed in me, and I believed in them. And I had some great role models. And looking back earlier in my career, there's this one gentleman, he stands out in my mind. His name was Brad McKee. He was the director of marketing. I was in sales. We got to work on projects together, but he really supported and mentored me and gave me the opportunity to learn and grow. He advocated for me. He brought me into strategy, onto the strategic planning team, and he took risks and really focused on helping me become a better version of myself. And it's people like that we need in our life to help us grow and learn along the way. And not being afraid to make mistakes, because listen, I've made a ton of mistakes, but my philosophy is success is never permanent and failure is not the end.
That's a good one right there. So success is never permanent, right? Because it's fleeting, right?
Right.
You'll have it for a minute. I got it, don't got it, got it, don't got it, get it, don't get it, right? It's a fleeting. You're sitting at the top of that hill. You stay up on the top of the hill. Takes it takes continuous work. You
Right.
cannot rest on your laurels.
100%.
Yeah. And that's some of the hard stuff to tell people, because look, I know many men and women who have experienced success, rested on their laurels, and then are on the back side of it. And it's really hard, or just they make up that it's hard to do it again. And I'm like, no,
Right.
listen, if you did it once, you can do it again. Look, you know the path to getting there. But sometimes I ask, are you willing to do the work? Is there other stuff that we need to deal with? Are there other things that are holding you back from putting the effort in there? Right. I mean, how many people do you know that have been successful, top of the mountain type folks, made, lots and lots of money, and then all of a sudden they're on the back side of it, and, they're stuck.
Yeah, and that comes back to purpose, right? And so, as much as I encourage organizations to have a clear sense of their why, we have to step back and really evaluate what is our personal why, because then that becomes, our North Star. That becomes our guide in terms of how we live our life.
Well, I think part of it also is that appetite to continue to work,
Right.
right? I think one of the flaws of, it could be mine as well. I'll apply it to me rather than other folks. But look, I've worked really hard. I want to rest. I want to coast. And I say to folks, therein lies where the difficulty becomes. It's in the idea that coasting is what you think you want, and the truth is, it may feel like that for a minute, but the backside of not being successful, you're already up there. Maintaining that and staying there, that amount of work, it's going to take work, right? You have to continuously dig in and reinvent and reinvent and reinvent and reinvent. But then when you stop that and you say, no, I'm not willing to do it anymore. I want to rest. I want to, do whatever it is. The next thing that happens is failure. And that feels really, especially for someone who's been so successful, that, that next path is a really tough one.
It's a tough one. And it's about mindset, really. When we talk about this concept of succeeding and failing, you and I have both been there. I probably wanted to quit a dozen times when I was building my business. I can tell you that I just wanted to persevere and push through the dips and come out the other side. So many people stop when they hit a roadblock and they walk away. This isn't for them. They're not learning resilience. And to your point, you've got to continue to work hard and believe in yourself. And for me, pushing through the dips was probably the most valuable experience I gained from being an entrepreneur, because it taught me the strength of resilience.
Yeah, no, that strength with resilience, oftentimes I've figured out that praying for it to be easier isn't what I really want. I want to pray to be stronger, right? To
Right.
maintain that in it, which ultimately is the healthiest mindset to be, right? When I get lackadaisical, when I start getting lethargic, when I start getting the efforts, right? Oh, I can't do it. I'm too old. I can't done it. I'm not gonna put the work into it anymore. You're already starting to die, right? Like life continues on. And when I continue to challenge my brain, challenge what's possible, challenge just like you did when I was young and I didn't know you couldn't do things, right?
Right.
I mean, that was the
Yeah,
great part about being young and dumb. You had no idea that you couldn't do something. You just did it, you
that's
really,
right.
right? And you kind of boldly went after it. Now all of a sudden I make up all this fear like, oh my God, it's gonna be hard again. I got to go back through and work tireless hours and kind of do. But the truth is, I don't believe that's true. I believe that you've learned some skills. Maybe you do have to put some work in. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy, but there's also the gift of all the knowledge you had gained. You're older, you're a little wiser. You know how much of a net to throw onto things. You're not throwing the big
Right.
net on every single idea, everything that you're working on. Bring that wisdom into play.
Yeah, listen, it's also about having strong conviction. When my business was acquired, I stepped onto the executive team, had a new role as a chief experience officer. And I can tell you, I felt alone. I did not fit at that table. I felt excluded, frustration, pain, all of those things. And really, it came down to a choice. And there's two things I did. Number one is, as my wife reminded me, practicing a gratitude mindset is so important. So I really got into the practice of practicing a gratitude mindset. For the small things we overlook every single day. And having a gratitude mindset leads to being grateful for larger things in your life. The second thing I did is I had a really strong conviction about purpose. And, I strongly influenced through my personal conviction, the executive team to change their mindset from product centric to a purpose driven mindset. And what it did because of that strong conviction is it made the CEO recognize, let's try this. And he empowered me to take the company on the purpose journey. And it was transformational. The end result was, we drove a lot of growth, but we raised our internal net promoter scores, that concept of employee engagement, from 28 to 60. We became a world-class organization inside of 2 years. And that was because I had strong conviction in my beliefs.
Well, I think you've also been able to capture how you did that, right? I think that's one of the best parts about the Purposeful Performance book, is that you give some solid. The second part of the book really guides you on how to find that purpose, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a step-by-step guide, a roadmap for any entrepreneur, business owner, or leader, to understand, number one, how to define purpose, how to align core values, right? Those guiding principles, because we've all seen companies that have core values, right? They hang the posters on the wall, and they're nothing but empty promises. And people can see this inauthenticity, right? There's a misalignment between who they say they are and who they truly represent. And that's a big problem today. We want to get away from these empty promises and truly live our ethos of purpose and values. And the next part of that is we focus so much time trying to change the way people think without stepping back and trying to change the way they feel.
Mm.
And that is so important. Imagine if we stopped competing on features and benefits and started competing for meaning for the people we choose to serve.
Mm. Give me some more on that.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I talk about in the book, and something that most companies don't do, but intuitive companies understand, is this concept of empathy, right? So many organizations, it won't take you long. Do a Google search on companies and you'll see a variety of companies talking about how great they are, right? We're the best, we're world class, we're, a virtuoso. But that erodes trust, because imagine meeting an old friend in the street, right? You're talking about, yourselves, and the conversation, you could be sharing your deepest fears, your greatest desires, but the conversation always comes back to them, right? You're dealing with a conversational narcissist. What these companies are doing is they're being conversational narcissists. They're talking about how great they are without truly understanding the feelings that they want to evoke in the people they serve. So Theodore Levitt, a famous Harvard professor, right? He said, "Sell the hole, not the drill." And what he meant was, sell the problem, not the solution.
Yeah. Right. Sell the problem, that's the solution.
Right.
So how do we guide how do we guide the entrepreneurs listening right now into creating that? What's the, look, if 90 days from now I want to have a purposeful, driven organization, because it takes a little time to first find out what is the purpose I want to do, right? All right, Aaron, maybe guide me. How do I guide these entrepreneurs to get there?
Yeah, the first question you need to ask is, why do I exist, and what's the aspirational change I want to make in the world? Answering the question of why you exist is not enough. It's not going to inspire and motivate people to take that journey by your side. It's about the aspirational change you want to make in the world. If you're running a company, you're solving problems, right? And you're solving problems for people who share your worldview. So what is the change you want to make in their lives? What is the difference you want to make? And it's beyond simply solving the problem. We all have fears and aspirations. So how can we tap into that? And the second part of that is having core values. Purpose is not enough. It's just part of the story. You've got to define core values to create the guiding behaviors inside of your organization that teaches people how to think, act, and communicate, so that you can make decisions easier, increase productivity. 86% of the workforce today are looking for organizations that share their values, yet most companies don't have any.
Absolutely. Now, when you say join their values, right? Give me their individual as employee values. So let's talk about that. Like, what are things that employees want that, if we want to create a purposeful company organization, right? I think everybody wants to be part of creating something amazing, right?
100%.
So how do we start to identify that and then really hold that flag up high, so it's our North Star, our vision, and we'll really guide everybody to that and create the language to get them there?
So when I was running my company, Tony Hsieh, who ran Zappos, right? He was known for creating cultures of happiness, and he had created 10 core values to lead and guide his organization. And I thought, this is perfect. I've got, best class. I'm going to create 10 core values for my organization. And I took my time and defined those core values and set the culture I wanted to see. I started, talking about core values at weekly meetings. I hung posters on the wall, right? I felt really great about this. But what I found was that in the end, I wasn't creating the culture I wanted to see. And part of that reason is I failed where Tony Hsieh had succeeded. And the reason I failed is because I created those values for me. I didn't create those values for the organization. And I didn't include my leadership team. And so what we did is we stepped back and we really started to think about who we really were. Number one, what was our purpose, and how do our core values align with that purpose? Who are we really? And so we stepped back and defined 4 core values that increased productivity. It motivated employees. It gave them the guidelines in terms of how they acted, thought, and communicated. And we were able to move faster and build trust. So number one, I think quality over quantity is really important. And the second part of that is You've got to define values, whatever they are, that truly align with what your organization represents, right? So if you believe in trust, just don't think about trust, convert that value into build reliability, right? Build reliability creates trust. And then what are the defined actions within that core value that are going to guide employees in making the right decisions? And the last piece of this is accountability. The problem is far too many leaders create core values, but they don't talk the talk and walk the walk, right? So you've got to embody those core values yourself if you want to enact change within your organization. You've got to talk about them so much, in fact, and lead by example that they become as ubiquitous as air, right? You've got to tie those core values into performance.
Give me some more on that. How do you tie core values into performance?
Yeah, so one of the things I did was I implemented a gratitude platform. That's just sort of one piece of the puzzle. And a gratitude platform allows employees to share both within their teams and cross-functionally how a fellow team member or colleague lived a core value, and they actually share that core value and how they lived it within the platform, and it's shared across the organization. The second part of that is, as it relates to performance reviews, you've got to talk about how people are living those core values and provide reward and recognition. If you believe in teamwork, then you've got to foster collaboration and cross-functional teamwork within the organization and reward and recognize those that are embracing and embodying those principles. Because it shows that those who are rewarded and recognized for that core value becomes, an opportunity for others to follow suit. So it's not just about stating core values, it's about living them and reinforcing them. The other part of that is at weekly team meetings, we had open discussions about how each of us were living a core value. And we didn't talk about ourselves, we talked about another team member.
That's interesting, right? Finding ways to send positive, something positive back to someone else other than yourself, right?
Right.
Some way of praising on others. I notice that when we have meetings like that, the whole meeting moves up, right? I certainly have had meetings in the past where I focused on profitability, right?
Yes.
When I work on,
there's a place for that,
right? So let's talk about that. What's the place for? Hey, as a leader, I got to make sure my company's profitable, right? But as an organization, I want to create trust and bond. So, there's sometimes those could be feel like they're in conflict.
Yeah. So I address this in my book. And listen, every employee in every organization wants to win. We all want to win. We want to be a part of a winning team. And so when you're having those profitability discussions at a senior leadership level, you're going to refer to several different financial metrics inside of your organization. But you need a scorecard, and you need a scorecard that you're going to share transparently across the organization with everyone. And it's the only way that people can understand where they are in terms of winning the game. We all want to keep score. So from an employee perspective, from the bottom up, everyone needs to know if we're winning or losing. So that profitability discussion you're having may be around an executive room table. It may be with senior leadership team members, maybe be speaking to managers. But for everyone else, you've got to keep score. What are the 5 or 6 metrics you're going to share across the organization, and have those weekly team discussions about whether you're winning or losing? And if you're losing, you've got to have open dialogues as to why you're losing, right? Because that's where the learning and growth happens.
Absolutely. And then we can't, if we don't face where we're losing, where we have those matrix that aren't working, then we literally can't fix them, right? We
Right.
walk around like they're not happening, walk around like, that gardener who walks out in his garden, everything's a mess, and is going, I got beautiful flowers. It's not going to happen. You can't BS it to fruition. You've got to do some gardening, right? You got to get in there and till and work and get the old weeds out, and you've got to put the work in. And we can't do that until we notice that, the garden's a mess, right? Or wherever the mess is. And, we don't have to linger there and focus on that, but we're going to have to go do some work. We're going to have to go identify where we have those issues and how we're going to find, what's the path to getting us out of that mess.
Yeah, and some great ideas come from, all kinds of places within the organization. It's not just your leadership team, right?
Yeah.
You've got to create accountability, empowerment, transparency, and effective communication. And when you have those things, right, you foster an environment of trust. And you've got to create those open dialogues in your organization so you can have those tough discussions without fears of being reprimanded.
Well, I mean, when you wrote this book, Purposeful Performance, right? Talk to me about what was the driver. Where were you at when you said, "All right, I'm going to stop and I'm going to sit down and write this book"?
Yeah, the driver for me was clear. My personal why is, I help people connect to purpose so they can wake up feeling inspired about making a meaningful difference in people's lives. And so my whole reason behind the book is, I've had some amazing journeys. I've failed a lot. I've learned a lot. And I wanted to share my story. I wanted to help other entrepreneurs succeed. And the greatest joy and fulfillment I have from my life is seeing other people succeed. I love celebrating the successes. There's many people that I've known in my career that have been much more successful than I have from a monetary perspective. But the one thing I've always recognized is that I can learn and grow and celebrate in their success. Why were they so successful? And the one thing I've learned is the most successful people I know lead with a servant's heart. They put others first. So when I started this journey, I thought, if I can just touch one person, if I can just change one person's life in a positive way, then I'm winning.
That's awesome. I believe that's true of most human beings, is that, once they get out of their fear mentality, truth is we want to help each other. Right. And, maybe at first there's fear around money or things or being seen or, I'm not going to get mine or whatever that lowercase fear is, whatever that lower shadow is of the human. Right. And I've been there. Right. But once we get through that and kind of notice, hey, all right, that's just me being afraid. I'm not going to be seen or whatever it is. Right. Truth is, I believe we're the happiest, where most of us are happy when we're achieving something and helping others. Right. I think those two things go hand in glove. People have organizations where we're achieving some great common goal together and we're doing it together in a way that's meaningful and inspires each other. Right. Those are the best organizations to watch. Is, they don't mind the tireless, sleepless nights, the endless energy that has to be deployed to make something happen. Right. All of that seems to go away when we work together and we feel that sense of belonging to a bigger idea than our ideal than ourselves.
You nailed it right on the head. I couldn't have said it better myself. When we're contributing to something larger than ourselves, and we can motivate, inspire, and uplift each other, gone are the days where leadership is about rank, authority, and control. We have to stop talking about our direct reports and start becoming direct supports. From a leadership perspective, the best we can do is help others succeed, help them reach their full potential, learn and grow. And when they surpass our success, celebrate it. Yes, we've done our job. And that's, when we give, we get so much more back.
Jonathan, you are a light in this world. You really bring a great light to the work of being a great leader, right? Being able to articulate steps to getting there, finding purpose. Your book, Purposeful Performance, well, where's it available?
It's available at all major bookstores. You can go to Amazon, you'll find it. And I'm very grateful to all my readers out there.
Well, and by the way, we'll put a link to Amazon's down below. You'll be able to get a copy of that. And look, as leaders, finding great content, finding content from, great leaders like Jonathan who have been there, who've done that, and are going to give you a step-by-step guide to doing it. This is the type of fuel to feed your mind, right? This is where we as leaders find the short stop, or really find the straightest way to growing your organization in a way that will move, touch, and inspire you and others, right? So, Jonathan, I'm so grateful for having you on the show.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciated our discussion.
Yeah, look, let's keep going. Every time you come out with a new book, every time you make a new front, I'd love to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Audience, as always, we're so grateful for you being here. Again, another breakthrough week last week with downloads and how many people were on that. It's how many people enjoyed the show. YouTube alone had a massive change in the number of you guys that subscribed. It was just overwhelming, and grateful for that. Every time you like and subscribe, it makes a world of difference to Alyssa and Joe and all of us in the background that are putting this show together and finding amazing speakers and leaders in our country like Jonathan, and having the ability to bring them on the show. Having those like and subscribes makes a difference. So please do that now if you can. And as always, we're so grateful for you listening.